Hi, welcome to SBR Sports Picks. I'm Peter Loshak. Today is Friday, July 8th, and we are talking right now with Andreas Hale, MMA analyst from the podcast The Corner, and we are going to discuss with Andreas late betting value with the current odds with the main card of UFC 200. Just an amazing, awesome card, all sorts of craziness. Andreas Hale, thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, Andreas, let me just first ask you, let's just start things right off, right? My best bet on the main card was going to be Jon Jones, right? I thought he just was going to, even at minus 280, whatever, anything under minus 300, I thought he was a good bet over Cormier. Now, of course, that's all out the window. Let's just start. First thoughts on Anderson Silva replacing him as a big underdog. Right now, it's Cormier minus 400, Silva plus 336. Just hit us with your first thoughts on Silva in this fight.
That line's about right. I mean, we got Anderson Silva basically rolling off of his couch, hasn't trained in months, had gallbladder surgery recently, fighting a man who's definitely going to be heavier than him. So
Right.
I have a really hard time putting any money on Anderson Silva in this fight. Daniel Cormier, who's an outstanding wrestler, and we know how Anderson Silva's dealt with wrestlers. I don't see this getting far. And if you have the money to spend, I'd definitely put it on Cormier.
Right. All right. So then the question is, why did Silva take this fight? It wasn't that Dana White or anyone called him and asked him to do him a favor or anything. According to Dana White, Silva called him and asked for the fight. So, if he's at such a disadvantage here, why would he do that?
Well, it's Anderson Silva. He's a consummate competitor. He didn't get a chance to fight Uriah Hall. He still wants to prove himself. And at the age of 41,
Right.
you're not going to get many shots at a guy that's the caliber of Daniel Cormier. I mean, Uriah Hall's not even close. So if you're going to have your last hurrah, why not take it against a guy, especially at the biggest event that the UFC's ever had?
Sure.
So I can't fault him for taking the fight, but I just think he's going to get mauled.
Yeah, it just seems a little odd. I mean, if anyone has nothing to prove, it's Anderson Silva. So why would he put himself in this position if he really should be that big of an underdog? But maybe he just loves the atmosphere, wants the fight, doesn't really care if he loses. So you think that, and another thing is, it's interesting. I'm thinking that maybe my best bet on the main card now is on the over 2.5 rounds at plus 126. You think that Cormier will get an early stop, or do you think they'll have some respect for the legend and it'll kind of just, there'll kind of be an understanding between the two of them that they won't, pound each other too hard in this one, and maybe taking over 2.5 rounds at plus 126 would be a good bet. What do you think about that?
Well, I have my concerns because with Cormier, the thing is that he's been getting up for Jon Jones for so long that
Right.
when you're getting in there with somebody like Anderson Silva, I'm not sure where his mental state is going to be at.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's just going to want to annihilate Anderson and get him out of there, or if he's going to be looking at a legend across the cage from him.
Yeah.
With that being said, I would say this probably does go over.
Yeah.
I think there is going to be a level of respect because Anderson Silva is still Anderson Silva. He's still one of the most dynamic strikers we've ever had in MMA, period. So he may take his time with this fight. It may go the distance, but it's tough to tell because we have no idea what Cormier's mind state is. We have less of an idea of how conditioned Anderson Silva is going to be to go 3 rounds.
Well, we do know that a quote from Silva, he said, I haven't trained in a few months, but I think I'm in good condition to go in there and put on a good fight. Now, I'm no expert on conditioning or MMA training, but that's got to be a bad sign, right? I haven't trained in a few months. What does that mean? And what do you take from that?
I mean, it's Anderson Silva being pretty honest.
Right.
And on top of that, he's never going to say, I'm out of shape and I'm not going to fight. He wants to fight. I mean, it's UFC 200. He wasn't on this card to have this opportunity. There was something that he had to do, and he stepped up. But to be honest, to have gallbladder surgery, which I've had, it puts you down for a long time. And if you can't train and prepare, in particular with a wrestler, an Olympic wrestler at that, it's going to be really tough. It's just a matter of how much Cormier is going to respect him on Saturday night.
Yeah, and you have to be thinking that Cormier doesn't really, I mean, this isn't the fight he wanted. It's kind of a no-win situation for him. Obviously, he wants to get the win here, but he's let down for this fight. So I don't know. I mean, initially I thought Cormier had very a low chance of winning, beating Jon Jones, and so Jon Jones was my best bet on the main card. Now I'm thinking maybe over 2.5 rounds at plus 126 is going to be officially my best bet on the main card. Before we move on to another fight, just give me your final thoughts on that. Over 2.5 rounds plus 126, just based on the factor that Cormier wants the win, but he knows he's across the from a legend, and Silva's coming in. He knows he's not in great condition. He knows he's taken this on very short notice, so he's going to be cautious too. And both these guys will basically just respect each other, put on an exhibition, and go out of it. Let it go to the cards.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I see it as well. Again, it's just you're looking at somebody. A lot of people last night thought that Roy Nelson and Derek Lewis was going to go less than 2 rounds.
Yeah.
However, when guys switch up strategies when they know the type of fighter that they're facing, and with these two, you just never really know what Cormier is going to want to do out there. And I really think he's going to respect Anderson for at least 2 rounds
Yeah.
and see where his conditioning is at. Test him out there. If he does get a stoppage, it may be late. But the other way to look at it is he may just kind of run him over like he did Dan Henderson.
Mhm.
I don't know, but those odds seem pretty good, for it to go over. So I'll take it. It's a risk either way. You just
Yeah,
don't
sure,
know what's
sure.
going to happen. This is a real crapshoot.
All right. Well, the rest of the main card is filled with awesome fights. I'm not sure if there's any betting value that's pretty clear and obvious available. Let's get your take on it. Out of the other 4 fights, all right. So we've got Miesha Tate against Nunes, and Nunes obviously is a bit. I mean, she's a game contender, but Tate has just such a well-rounded game, right? She can come back from being hurt. She's proven herself so much in the octagon. I certainly wouldn't want to get bet against her. Then you got Mark Hunt and Brock Lesnar. I mean, from my perspective, that's just a pass. It's an unbettable fight. Then you got Edgar and Aldo, which is unbettable because the line seems so tight to me. I mean, it's close to even money on both sides, and it should be. And then you have Brown and Velasquez, where the big X factor is Velasquez's condition. So all 4 of those fights present a lot of uncertainty when it comes to betting value. Out of those 4 fights, which intrigues you the most, just as far as betting value is concerned?
I guess I have to go with Kane.
Mhm.
I really think that Cain Velasquez, the only 2 fights that he's lost, one he was injured heading into the fight, the other one he didn't prepare for the altitude,
Right.
which affected his conditioning. Other than that, this man has the best motor in MMA, and I don't think
Sure.
Travis Brown's going to have anything for him. The simple fact that Travis Brown was knocked out by Andrei Arlovski recently, and Cain Velasquez is coming off of a loss, and he seems extraordinarily motivated. He had no injuries in camp, as far as I've heard,
Mhm.
and he trains with the best light heavyweight in the world, which is Daniel Cormier. So if there's any smart money to put out there, and if there's anything that you can make something off of, I look at Cain Velasquez against Travis Brown.
Yeah, I guess the concerns are that first of all, he's off a year layoff, so maybe there's some ring rust there. And then second of all, his career has just been marked by injuries so much that, and his body's taken such a pounding that even though there aren't any, reported injuries that people are talking about and worried about, it's just a question what actual condition he's in. I mean, I completely agree with you. If we knew for a fact that he's, in 100% condition here or even 90% condition, definitely even at minus 290, he'd be the pick. But his conditioning and his condition is a worry here, or not much of a worry for you.
It's not much of a worry for
Okay.
me. I mean, we look at Cage Russ and we look at Dominic Cruz and how long he was off and what he was able to accomplish when he came back. Cain Velasquez trains with some of the best guys in the world with Daniel Cormier and Luke Rockhold. I don't see this conditioning being a problem, and I don't see this lasting long.
Mhm.
I don't see Travis Brown being able to pose much of a threat with him. His boxing is a little bit suspect. His own gas tank is a little bit suspect, and he's never really dealt with a wrestler the caliber of Cain Velasquez.
Yeah.
So I just see this. I potentially see this as a mauling.
Yeah, taking the under is a little bit tough though because it's under 1.5 rounds at minus
Yeah.
108. But you think that you take the under sooner than you take the over 1.5 rounds?
I would take the under sooner than
Yeah.
I take the over. I think Kane's going to want to get the job done. I think he has something to prove, especially considering the fact that Brock Lesnar's ahead of him on this card, and
Yeah.
who did he beat to get the title? It's Brock Lesnar. So he has something to prove here, and he wants to get right back in the title picture. And no better way to do that than get rid of somebody the caliber of Travis Brown quickly.
All right, and then just the rematch, Frankie Edgar and Jose Aldo. Someone doing their basic research and then their more advanced research might easily come to the conclusion that these lines are just very tight. They're very evenly matched, and there's no betting value to be had either which way, any which way on this fight. The first one, of course, went the distance, but of course, each of them can knock the other one out. So maybe the total's unbettable as well. You think that the Edgar Aldo fight is bettable any which way, or is it a pass?
It's a pass.
Right,
It's too tough to figure out. We don't know what Jose Aldo's going to come out. Being knocked out in 13 seconds can be looked at one way or another. It could be a fluke, or it could be something that permanently damages Jose Aldo's chin.
Yeah.
We don't know. Frankie Edgar has a ton of momentum, but given the fact that Jose Aldo beat him their last outing, it's just really tough to feel comfortable picking either of them, picking the distance. I have no idea how this fight's going to play out.
All right, Andreas Hale, thanks so much for your thoughts. Let's just wrap this up by giving our final official best bets for the main card. A little bit tough. I'll go first. I think I already said it. Anderson Silva, Daniel Cormier, over 2.5 rounds at plus 126. Andreas Hale from the podcast The Corner and a lot of MMA coverage all around the internet. What would you be your best bet as of right now from the main card of UFC 200?
I would just absolutely agree with what you just said.
Yeah.
That is the best thing out there. Everything else is really a toss-up.
Yeah.
I would not be confident in anything else except for this particular one.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like the over 2.5 rounds at plus 126, but the reason I'm making it the best bet is because the other 4 fights are great fights, but from a betting perspective, very uncertain to me. Thanks so much, Andreas.
Thank you.
Always on the go? Bet365 has one of the top mobile platforms in today's market. Sign up today and don't let your busy life keep you out of the game.